Deep Thoughts on Shallow Subjects, a Metal Gear retrospective. This is Matty77 of Bottom Feeders Incorporated, and this is part 1, my personal history with the Metal Gear series. I first played Metal Gear on the Nintendo Entertainment System. This may have been a lesser version, but since it was 30 years ago, my 11-year-old self did not know this, and would not know this for years to come. The broken parts, areas that needed workarounds, and wonky design changes, never mind that horrid excuse for a story in the manual, such as blowing up a computer instead of a Metal Gear, meant nothing for me. All I knew was being a super spy with all kinds of gadgets, stealth, and one hell of a punch entranced me in what I would realize years later was my second foray into said sandbox gameplay, Zelda being the first. That to this day remains my favorite aspect in interactive entertainment. Give me a map, a goal, and a tool set, and I am good to go. And even in its botched state, especially as a preteen when that was cut and edge, and boy did Metal Gear NES deliver. I bought Snake's Revenge upon release, but even then it was obviously trash, so for some time Metal Gear was out of sight, out of mind. Years later, with a PS1 I was just kind of dabbling with, that's a story for a different time, I ended up with the Metal Gear Solid demo. I played it until the disc died. I then played the game proper. Metal Gear was back, and with a vengeance, marrying innovative ideas and Kojima's vision into a 3D space with story to match and integrated at an almost perfect level created a classic that still stands high in video game history. I also played a lot of the VR missions. When Metal Gear Solid 2 came out for PS2, I had to get that. Though unlike the first, I hadn't played the demo, which was the tanker section if memory serves right. Loved this one as well, and unlike many, had no issue with the Raiden twist. I also enjoyed the story, even if I cannot honestly say I understood it. Later, I bought the Substance Edition for Xbox, and between that edition, the later HD edition, and the Legacy Collection, I can honestly say I have put hundreds, if not thousands of hours of play into the extras, between the VR missions and Snake Tales. Then came 3. Though the original's camera sucked, the Subsistence release fixed the camera, turning one of my favorite sandbox experiences into a bona fide masterpiece of creativity and experimentation. Never mind it being the last great Metal Gear Solid story that still struck an almost perfect balance between its presentation and the actual gameplay. Not only that, but this edition came with something very special for those of us from at least the North America region, namely the MSX version of the original Metal Gear, and finally the release in the West of Metal Gear 2, Solid Snake. So my first order of business was playing through Metal Gear in its instantly visible superior version, which made me fall in love with the game once more despite its age. Plus the chance to finally blow up the titular Metal Gear. In the original game, which as mentioned does not exist in the now clearly to my eyes inferior NES port. It also gave me the chance to see how innovative and forward-thinking Metal Gear 2 was, and how much of Metal Gear Solid 1 was actually a remake of it, and a chance to implement those ideas and that design in the 3D space. Plus the chance to see how far the mighty big boss had fallen, using disposed of career combatants and child soldiers to implement his dream of a future where war was always needed, and instead of used and cast off, soldiers would be of the utmost importance, with nations at their beck and call, instead of the other way around. Since I will be talking about all the games in depth, for now I will just say I have played number 4 multiple times and leave it at that. While I did have a PSP, I never got around to playing Peace Walker until I had the Legacy Collection for the PS3. It was a mixed bag, but more good than bad. The good being characters, control scheme, and the introduction of recruiting soldiers and Mother Base. At least my introduction on recruiting, since I had never played Portable Ops. The bad for me was mostly the vehicle-based bosses, especially since co-op and Metal Gear just don't mix for me.
I got Chico.
And then came 5. Pretty much the reason for my deciding to do this. A divisive game in an already divisive franchise. I personally love it, but more on the actual game later. It's the reaction I have an issue with. Too many people who feel that their opinion is everyone's opinion. Way too many times I have heard or read about how if you like 5, you're not a real Metal Gear fan, or you must not have played the other games, which I frankly find laughable. Almost as funny as the idea that people who like Metal Gear are a unified monolith, who all feel the same, otherwise you're not a real fan. So there you go. My history with the franchise, which hopefully adds some weight to my personal opinion, and hopefully enough to make you want to hear it. This is Matty77 of Bottom Feeders Incorporated. Thank you and have a day.